The whole idea behind this demonstration is to provide an easy way to fix skin problems. And it is much easier than some of the ones currently out there, like frequency separation and some other methods. The idea here is you will have your facial image on one layer, and as you can see, we have a blank layer right above it where we can be putting our skin tone editing changes. And I'm going to go ahead and name that Skin Magic on that blank layer. And I'll go ahead and select the eyedropper tool. I like to set it at 11 by 11 pixels and the current and below layer. I'll find a problem area, click on a skin tone near it, get the brush tool, and no matter what size I'm using, I like to keep it on the softest to have a nice soft edge. And 12%, very low opacity, so we can put just a little bit of skin changes on there. So with a sample and the skin tone and a brush, we're going to go ahead and just brush away some of the problems there. And by grabbing a skin tone near the problem, you know that you're getting a tone that will be correct. And what we want to do is not totally make them disappear because it'll make it look a little bit too smooth, but just diminish them quite a bit. You can see those wrinkles are going away. Around the bridge, there's just too much texture. Grab a skin sample with the eyedropper tool, lightly brush over that. And down here we have some problems. A sample with the eyedropper tool, then the brush tool to lightly brush over it. And I want to get rid of that little bit of the dewlap shadow there. Around the eye, there's just a little bit too much skin texture. Grab a sample, lightly brush over that area. And keep in mind we're doing this on a separate layer above the face, so this is non-destructive. Two little problems right there, lightly brush over. And you can see the difference before and after. Bit too much shadow under the eye. Click to grab a skin tone sample, lightly brush that away. And in this area, a little bit too much texture. Gradually brush that away. I'm going to zoom in here, and you can see I have quite a bit of noise. Normally, I would get rid of that before I would start, but let's go ahead and do it now. I'm using Topaz Denoise. I'm going to choose moderate, and you can see actually it smoothed it out quite a bit before and after. I'm going to accept just the full thing here. Now I'm going to do something I really like to do. Once I apply an effect, I do Control-Shift-F, and that brings up a fade dialog box. And you can see that I can fade whatever effect I just applied and then choose the exact level that I want. It looks like there's still quite a bit of noise, but we're zoomed in a little bit, so that's overpronounced. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of a little skin problem there. And also the shadow under the lip is a little bit too much pronounced, so I'll grab a sample. The eyedropper tool, gradually brush over it. And also I'll go back to this little problem here. Grab a sample, lightly brush over it. Zoom back out, turn it off and on, and you can see that it has made quite a difference. Turn the face off, and you can see actually what we have applied there. And also on the layer called Skin Magic, we can lower the opacity if we thought we might have overdone it just a bit. So let's go ahead and expand this technique to include a few other things. I'm going to go ahead and select the Quick Selection tool on a plus selection. I want to select the skin tones and put them on a separate layer. So now I have to click on minus selection to subtract a little bit from my selection. I'm doing this a little bit faster and a little bit less accurately than I normally would just for demonstration purposes. When I get the selection where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and click on select and mask. I'm going to feather that so we have just a little bit of a transition zone between what's going to end up being very sharp contrast and very smooth skin tones. I took that selection and did Control J to put that on a new layer. We can see that. Now I have the polygon marquee tool, selection tool, and I want to separate the eyes out. I use this tool because I can be very accurate about selecting just the eyes. I want to deal with them separately. Hold the Shift key down to enable you to add to your selection. And once I finish the selection here, once again, I'm going to go up to the Select and Mask option. It's a very hard edge, so I want to smooth this out too. Control J to put those eyes on a new layer. And I'm going to go ahead and name that layer eyes, and then also skin, just so we know exactly what is on what layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on just the bottom layer there, and I'm going to go to Topaz Labs. You can go to any filter you want to. I want to add a lot of contrast, so I'm going to select Topaz Adjust Clarity, and you can see when I turn it off and on that it really bumps it. I'm going to accept that at the full measure, and once again, like before, I'm going to do Control Shift F to get a fade dialog box so I can fade that effect. And I'll swing that slider left and right, then gradually hone it in on the level of that effect I want to accept. In this particular case, 50%. The face layer is selected. I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer right above that. And we're going to go back to what I showed you just previously of using the eyedropper tool and the brush tool. The eyedropper tool to sample a skin tone very near a problem, and the brush tool on soft at 12%, that we can gradually brush out some of those skin anomalies. And this is just a recap of what I've shown earlier. The brush size we can make bigger and larger and smaller simply by tapping on the left and right bracket keys. Very handy. And I'm doing what I did before, just gradually brushing out some of the problem areas. Here too, in reality, I would be doing this much more slower and accurately. I did want to work with the eyes separately, so I'm going to go ahead and put an adjustment layer of curves. I clicked on the clipping so that what I do here will be applied only to this layer. I'm taking the midtones, swinging them a little bit higher to make them a little bit brighter. And now I'm going to go ahead and do another adjustment layer of hue and saturation. And you notice that once I have one clipping layer on a layer, any further adjustment layers will be clipped. I selected red, I lowered the saturation and all the lightness, lowered that also simply to get rid of any red eye problems. So to step back and look at the big picture, what we did here was just separate different elements of this image geographically. The hair and background was on one layer, the skin tones were on another layer, and we put the eyes on a top layer. And we dealt with each one of them differently, and that's the beauty of this, that you're not doing universal edits, like putting all of the contrast on everything in there. You very selectively took the main components and dealt with each one separately. And what's nice about it, you can go back to those separate layers and make adjustments in the future.